You're listening to Stimulus Tech Talk, a conversation-based podcast created by Stimulus Technologies that covers a range of topics related to business and technology.
Welcome to Stimulus Tech Talk. I'm Sherry Lip, the marketing manager at Stimulus Technologies, and I'm here today with Stimulus Technology CEO Nathan Whitaker, and we are going to be talking about technology innovations, recent and upcoming. Welcome, Nathan.
Thanks, Sherry, and thank you everybody for being here today. I'm actually really looking forward to this topic and bringing out the crystal balls of what's coming out for next year. So,
Yes, definitely. I feel like we could probably talk about this almost every week, but we're going to give a nice little overview here.
and I guess we could prognosticate now because the election is over in the United States, so nobody wanted to how do you say that word? Guess who's going to be elected, so we can guess now what new technologies are coming out.
Yes,
Because
more
that's
fun.
yeah, more fun than the election.
Yeah. So what kind of advancements do you think business owners should be aware of going into 2025?
You can't ignore AI, so I'm going to certainly say that as the number one thing that businesses should be looking at is improvements in AI, but specifically around not just using AI in sales and marketing material and content generation, but how you can automate the work that you don't necessarily want to do. This week, I was with a group of business leaders in California in some workshops, and we were discussing AI and discussing trends. And that's the topic that comes up, is like, how do we implement these tools that are available now inside our business and day-to-day operations. And I think that is what we're going to see coming from a lot of our vendors that we're buying software from and tools from, is better integration into existing systems so that we can automate a lot of our work away. So a lot of tools that are available now are kind of independent tools and not well integrated. And so I think that's going to be the trend over the next couple of years, is software manufacturers, software companies are going to incorporate these AI tools inside their software. If you're buying from a vendor that's not rapidly developing these technologies inside their systems, it's probably time to look for new vendors. It may be difficult for a small business, especially, to implement this themselves still, integrating it with their accounting system, or their job bidding system, or their production system. It might be a little bit more difficult to implement those on your own. So be looking to your vendors to integrate AI tools inside their solutions and improve the outcomes, and automate away processes that you don't need to do anymore.
And what kind of tools? What kind of tools are you most excited about?
I think, again, it's just automating things that I don't necessarily want to do. I mentioned that periodically I do some software development for some clients or internally at Stimulus, and I think it's amazing that I can interact with these AI tools to help me generate code, if I give it the right input. So, if you're doing software development, or even if you're, an Excel power user, and you want to, write a macro to do a task for you, rather than having to have expert knowledge in macro writing, you can ask ChatGPT or Copilot or one of these tools to say, this is the problem I'm trying to solve. Can you write me a script or a macro to do this work? And with a little bit of interaction, you don't have to be an expert. You just have to have a basic knowledge to be able to have a great outcome. So I think, though, as these tools get more and more integrated in, these AI tools get more and more integrated in the software we're using every day, And that's why I like Copilot so much, is because it integrates with the Microsoft ecosystem. It becomes much more powerful. If we have to go to a separate product or separate tool to do the work, it just takes a little bit of time away. But the more and more the systems are integrated and automated, the better it is. I mean, I have some concepts like, in my own company, I'm thinking about how do I use AI to provide potential solutions to our technicians and system administrators for problems that come in. So a customer puts a request in, and they're not interacting directly with AI, but maybe the AI system runs through all the previous requests that customer has ever put in, and then provides some context and information to the technician or administrator on previous requests around that issue and or suggestions on resolving that for that customer. And so that's the kind of stuff I think that will improve our performance as a company, is if we can use AI as an assistant for the work that's being done, and then that just accelerates the production and the work that we're doing. So I think we're going to look at more and more vendors coming out with those integrated solutions, or we'll have to develop them ourselves as businesses. But anything we can do to reduce the time to get to a resolution for a customer, a solution for a customer, the better. So whether it's self-service or just a kind of a hybrid or integrated solution, it certainly provides a better experience for your client or customer.
And how do you think businesses can use, or do you think AI is a part of like most new technology that's coming out in terms of what businesses will be using?
I certainly think so. It is, if vendors are not doing it, if they're not taking advantage of these generative AI systems and other advanced automations, if they have to program all this work themselves, they're going to be left behind by their competitors, or somebody's going to come along and knock them off, their game. So I think the software vendors are going to have to integrate these type of solutions to maintain their market position. If they don't, they're going to be left behind to a competitor that does. So in each one of these individual industries, if you're a CPA, your software should be producing something that helps you better automate tax returns or audits or whatever you're doing for your clients. Looking for improved ways to gather information and put it into the system and then produce better results. I mean, AI can do a great job of collecting a lot of data and putting it in, and we got to be looking at these integrations to do it. So I think so. I think it has to be, because that's the acceleration of software development, is using generative AI to do a lot of the heavy lifting.
And as we're integrating all this AI into our operations, how do we assess the trust level? How do we have that quality check that we can't just assume the AI is right all the time, right?
Yeah, you certainly can. I like the phrase, AI is a very intelligent and a very excited intern. And if we think about it as it's very knowledgeable but not very experienced. And so we have to marry that knowledge and that it's producing with our expertise as the service provider. So we certainly have to check the work. It may be more accurate than humans at times, but sometimes it's just inaccurate completely. I think about it. I was on a long drive yesterday, and I have automated driving in my vehicle, and I often, on long road trips, I let it do some of the automated driving, and sometimes it just does weird things. It doesn't. I was on some backcountry roads, and it was really struggling with turns and backcountry, and eventually I disconnected and just drove myself because it was struggling. Now that's going to improve over time, but it isn't 100% yet. And I think that's what we have to realize with any of these tools, that they have to learn and grow. Just again, that automated system is just like a 16 or 17-year-old driver, and it might have all the book knowledge, but not the experience that I have driving. So marry those two together and use it where it's good and productive in your company, and then marry that with the expertise of your employees and your teams to ensure the proper outcomes for our clients.
In terms of, what are we looking forward to as a company that deals with this cybersecurity changes over the next year, both in attacks, but also in our ability to thwart them?
Yeah, cybersecurity and AI has been an issue, uh, it's been better and worse in different ways. So hackers are certainly using AI to write content, write better emails, better spear phishing, deep fakes, voice augmentation, and getting around voice systems. AI is doing a very good job to help hackers be better at their job too. And so on the cybersecurity front, we have to rely again on tools that are incorporating AI to do better detection of AI produced content. And so I think that AI can dramatically enhance cybersecurity because the threat has been dramatically increased. I just use an example of how that I think everybody can understand is banks have been using AI technologies for fraud detection for many years. Uh, Previously, a human would often have to review a charge that was flagged as potential fraud. And there was only a very small percentage of charges that could be looked at by humans of the total number of charges that each credit card company was producing. And so there was certainly an increase in potential fraud over the years as we use credit cards more and more in our society. And if you think about a few years ago, this was a huge issue of credit card fraud. I went through a number of times of cards getting canceled because of potential fraud um, on the account, or actual fraud on my accounts. But I haven't personally experienced that as much recently. And I think the fraud detection has gotten so much better by these credit card companies because they have implemented AI detection of fraud. And so rather than looking at a very small percentage, maybe 0.001% of all transactions, they're now looking at 100% of the transactions with AI detection, and only sending the ones that AI can understand if they are normal charges on the account over to a human to look at. And the AI models or AI systems can build models around our purchasing. And Sherry, you and I probably have different purchasing outcomes. We go to different stores. We I travel a lot, and there's differences the way that we use our credit cards. And so these AI systems can learn how Sherry does it, how Nathan does it, how Chan does it, how Peter does it. Everybody has a different um, way that they use the card, and then it builds that model and then can detect fraud based off of these advanced models that builds around us. So that's credit card companies have been doing this for a couple of years now, and dramatically improved the way they do it. For small businesses, very good cybersecurity systems can do the same. They understand how we work and how we communicate, the emails we write, our writing style, things like that, and then they can detect when there's anomalies around the work that we're doing and prevent those threats. And so those are the type of tools that we're using at Stimulus now, is these AI detection models, and I think it's improving cybersecurity dramatically.
Yeah, and do you think that we can get, faster automated response on some of those things? I'm thinking back to a time when it's like credit card is used unusually, and they're trying to call you, and obviously that's a very slow process. Can we just automatically get that shut down?
Yeah,
or how do we put that in
yeah, we
place?
certainly do that on our side. Is if there's a threat, our automated tools will shut it down immediately. I often say that hackers like taking down companies at 2 a.m. on a Sunday morning, and that's usually when it happens. And the IT team isn't usually awake at that time, and so AI can be automated to prevent those type of attacks and then remediate them automatically, and then inform the IT team that what it did and what we need to do to fully remediate the problem. Yeah, certainly that is changing and allows for quicker response of cybersecurity incidents before they become full blown problems.
And what kind of things do you think, in terms of cybersecurity, where do you think attackers, do you think that they will also start to learn to not be so obviously AI, sometimes?
Well, I think that is obviously going to improve, especially as I mentioned the spear phishing before, the well phishing. Is that they're going to use AI to gather more and more information about us to have more targeted social engineering schemes to convince us to do something that we wouldn't necessarily do. And so, um, pretending to be our friend, because they've gathered a bunch of information about who our friends are because we posted on social media, and they know how our friends communicate with us, and they can gather that information with AI. Certainly right now, it is, it's pretty obvious when an AI bot does a poor job of communicating with us. um, I shared in the webinar that we did in October, the cybersecurity awareness webinar, about some recent text messaging attacks that are coming up, and those are pretty obvious. You can identify those pretty well. But what if they could spoof your best friend's phone number, and then suddenly communicate like your best friend because they know all about you and them? And so that's the scary part. That we got to ensure that we're catching that, and we're um, if something seems weird, then we don't take action on it until we verify it. So um, I think the technology is there to prevent that kind of stuff, but it also requires an awareness on our part that those attacks are possible.
Yeah, and because AI is such good information gatherer, what do you think that will lead to in terms of regulations for businesses and privacy?
Yeah, it's that's an interesting question, and I think it's interesting from a regulatory standpoint. We elected in the U.S. An interesting government that has different stances on AI. Elon Musk obviously has had some pretty aggressive stances initially, that we need to take a pause on AI and that we need to slow down the rollout, and then suddenly he's investing in cryptocurrency and AI and all these things, and has his own startup. So um, but now he's involved in potentially regulation making in the federal government, and reducing, their goal of the Department of Government Efficiency is reducing regulation in the government. So we may not see a lot of regulatory control over AI right now. It may be court cases that produce this, that we have some oversight or regulation from the bench per se. um, but it is going to be interesting. Certainly there's a lot of questions still rolling around about copyright infringement, because AI is just using its knowledge that it's gathered over time to produce a statistical result that answers the question that we're asking it, or answers the task that we're asking it to do. And it's going to incorporate styles and images and things that it's learned over time, but just how humans do. I mean, we're kind of evolutionary in our creativity. We're not, there's very little brand new creation that we haven't thought about before. Almost everything that we produce that's creative, that we say is creative, is usually solving a problem that we have. I mean, I think we think of these great inventors, right? The inventing the airplane, for example. It's revolutionized how we travel, but certainly they looked at birds, things in nature, and they studied birds extensively to get their ideas about how to create an airplane. And AI does the same thing. It looks at what it knows to produce these results. And that's a question we have to ask for society. That's an ethical question. Is that a new result, or is that copying something else that it's learned? Because we do it as humans. Can a computer do it? And I won't answer that. I don't know. I mean, that's something that we have to ask as an answer as a society of how we want that to be. So I don't have a good answer to it. Just more questions.
Yeah, it's sometimes you just have to go through it to get to the answers. But we are planning to talk about ethics and AI in an upcoming podcast, so we'll delve a little deeper onto that side of it. But so we're gathering information and we're learning about our customers. How can we use this? How can businesses look forward to using technology to enhance the customer experience?
What I really like about it is it allows us to be individualized in our customer interactions. We've been doing this exercise, and Sherry and I were talking offline about doing a brief workshop on using AI to build an ideal customer profile, and then using that customer profile to manage our messages, whether it's emails or blog posts or whatever it may be, our interactions with our clients. And I do like that. It's very difficult from a salesperson perspective or a customer service perspective to be really personalized with the customer. It is a skill that I've taken plenty of seminars on. I've read books about it, and I am not an expert on it. But with a little bit of help of AI and a little bit of guidance, I can be more of an expert on it. So, something like, and it's available today, if you're working with Copilot in Outlook, you could ask Copilot, this is my email correspondence with Mary, and I need to write an email to let them know that, we're not able to complete their project on time, and I, feel really bad about it. And craft this email in the way that Mary will respond best to the email, and AI will help us do that. It's not changing the message, is changing how we communicate the message. And so personalization is a big deal, and AI can help your customer service reps, your salespeople, your account managers, everybody inside your organization to be more personalized in their communication with the clients and customers.
And one kind of wrapping it up, what is your dream AI tool, if you could wave a magic wand on
that? Something that lets me just do all the work for me, be me, and I could just ride my bike, go running, hike in the mountains, spend time with my kids, and I don't have to do any more work anymore. That's a dream tool, right?
I think there's a movie. It doesn't go
Duplicity. Yeah, it's not a good outcome. If you've ever seen the movie Duplicity, it's not a great outcome. So what is I think it's an accelerator. I'm honestly really happy with the outcomes that even tools like Copilot or ChatGPT produce today, because it's just an accelerator of my time. I started out with an example in this of the programming help it produced for me. It saves me about 4 hours worth of work by doing something that I would have had to do manually. And I think that's the goal. A great AI tool for me would be, again, something that could handle my schedule, automatically, manage, customer or interactions with the people I interact with, especially booking things on my calendar. If I want to go on a trip. It books all my travel for me. It just is that perfect assistant to allow me to focus on the work that I'm want to do today. And I know that, as an executive, I could have an executive assistant to help me with that work. I like doing a lot of it myself, unfortunately. I don't know. I enjoy those customer interactions, or, finding where I want to stay when I travel. But it would be nice to have, a tool that assisted me in that process. And it does. I'll just give you a quick example of a fun thing. My wife and I are going on a trip for her birthday. It's a big birthday for her next month, and probably about the time this podcast is going to get on the air. And we've never been to this place before. And so I said to her, I'm going to put it in ChatGPT and see what it produces for us for our trip. And sure enough, I asked it to ask me a bunch of questions about what we want to do and what we enjoy doing, and it put out an itinerary that we are somewhat sticking with for the most part. It's pretty impressive. So, it's just a lot of work that we can rely on it to, help us enhance what we do, and then we can focus on the things that we really enjoy doing in our business, and then not do the things that we don't want to do. So that's a perfect AI tool for me today, is just something that can accelerate the work that I do and allow me to focus on the things that I really want to do. And it's getting there. It's not perfect for sure, but it's a good resource today.
Yeah. And I don't know if you've done this. A friend of mine did this, and so I tried it. I asked ChatGPT, please make a portrait of me, who you think I am based on all our conversations. And it's kind of interesting to see who it thinks you are. So that's a fun thing to go try.
I will probably do that right after we're done with this. I think initially I tried it when it was on the 3.5 model. So I haven't tried it with a new model. So I will try that. That sounds interesting. So I encourage all our listeners, if you've interacted with one of these generative AI systems, that's a good question to ask. I'd love to hear in your comments what you guys get from that. That would be cool.
Yeah, let us know. Does it represent you, or is it way off?
It'd probably be something with 4 arms and 18 legs and way too many fingers, and
Yeah.
it'd be it doesn't do hands very well. I don't know if you've ever noticed
it. Doesn't like hands or feet. Usually kind of gives an extra arm sometimes.
Yeah.
Or two of this.
There's an image that's going around, or went around a couple of weeks ago, of an AI generated Disney princess image. And, zoomed out, it looked perfect. It looked great, like a bunch of Disney princesses. But once you zoom in, you realize that, Snow White's got an arm coming out of her head randomly. And one of them is doesn't have bottom half of their body. It's like a stub. It just is the weirdest image ever. But from a distance, it looked great. When you zoomed in, it looked terrible. So
yeah,
it's not perfect by any means, but it's still really amazing what AI can do. So I'm as a technologist, I'm just very intrigued, and I love sharing some ways that can help business owners do good work faster. So
yeah, definitely
exciting times.
It is. So thanks everybody for listening. Be sure to tune in to all our podcasts, but our next one will be on ethics and AI, which should be just as interesting of a discussion.